Welcome back, enthusiast. John Gillespie here, again from the Bigfoot Survivalist channel. It seems like there's been a significant uptick in Bigfoot sightings, particularly in Oregon. Over the past year, and especially in the last 6 months, the number of reports coming out of Oregon has been unprecedented. We're not just talking about a slight increase. We're seeing a genuine surge in activity. It's something that veteran researchers in the area haven't seen in decades. What's particularly fascinating is the concentration of these sightings. While Oregon has always been a hotspot, we're now getting a cluster of very credible reports from the coastal regions. What is interesting is, we usually associate sightings with the dense inland forests, like the Cascade Mountains. Why the coast? That's the million-dollar question, and it's what makes this so compelling. These aren't your typical tourist-heavy beach towns. The reports are coming from the more secluded, rugged parts of the coastline, areas with dense coastal forests that run right up to the cliffs and beaches. These are places with thick vegetation, numerous freshwater sources, and a rich ecosystem. My working theory is that something might be influencing their movement patterns. It could be environmental changes, shifts in food sources, or even human encroachment further inland, pushing them towards these less disturbed coastal territories. The coast offers a unique combination of cover and resources that might be becoming more attractive to them. We're getting a mix of circumstances, but the quality of the reports is what's truly remarkable. We're receiving detailed accounts of vocalizations heard echoing through the coastal valleys at night. Sounds that witnesses say are unlike any known animal. There have been multiple track discoveries in muddy estuaries and sandy coves. These aren't just one or two prints. We're talking about long strings of tracks that show a clear bipedal gait. And yes, there have been some very close visual encounters. People who have lived in these remote areas their whole lives, who know the woods like the back of their hand, are coming forward with stories that are frankly chilling. They describe massive bipedal creatures moving with incredible speed and agility through terrain that would be nearly impassable for a human. One of these latest reports has a lot of potential. I've been in contact with another investigator, a fantastic researcher named Blake, who is on the ground in one of these coastal hotspots. She just took on a case from a family living on a remote property that borders a state forest. They've been experiencing activity for weeks. It started with strange howls at night. Then they found a series of massive 17-inch footprints in their garden after a heavy rain. But what makes this case stand out is that the family's trail camera, which they set up to monitor deer, captured something extraordinary. Blake is currently analyzing the footage. The family claims the image shows a large, hairy figure moving through the trees at the edge of their property line. They described it as being massive in build and partially obscured by foliage, but clearly not a bear or any other known animal. Blake is a real professional. She's meticulously documenting the site, casting the tracks, and interviewing the family to verify every detail before releasing the image publicly. She was on the phone with me just yesterday, and while she's cautious, she told me, "John, this could be the one we've been waiting for." For more on this encounter, let's go to Blake now, investigating from the beautiful Oregon coast.
Thanks, John. This latest reported encounter is another chilling tale of why you should always be prepared when out in the wilderness. Today, I've got a story for you that will make you think twice about your next camping trip, especially along the beautiful but mysterious Oregon coast. This story comes from two best friends, Michelle and Maria, who were just looking for a fun weekend getaway. It started out as the perfect trip. Michelle and Maria, both in their late 20s and always up for an adventure, packed up their car and headed for the coast. They found a beautiful campsite nestled right between the dense green forest and the rugged shoreline. The first day was amazing. They spent hours hiking along the cliffs, watching the waves crash against the rocks, and just soaking up the sun on a secluded part of the beach. Just as they were relaxing, soaking up the warm West Coast sunshine, they heard rustling in the nearby tree line. They watched closely only to find two teenage boys emerging from the tree line, obviously trying to get a closer look of them sunbathing. Everything felt peaceful, idyllic even. They were laughing, taking pictures, and making memories, completely unaware that their perfect adventure was about to take a very dark turn. As the afternoon wore on, they noticed a couple of young guys walking through the campground. They quickly recognized them as the same boys from earlier, watching them on the beach. The boys must be camping close by and had taken a liking to them, it seemed, but still too shy to actually say anything. "Ah, boys," they giggled. But later, as Michelle and Maria were exploring a trail leading deeper into the forest, they both got this strange, unsettling feeling. You know the one I'm talking about? The feeling of being watched. They'd stop, listen, and hear nothing but the wind in the trees and the distant sound of the ocean. They tried to shake it off, blaming it on an overactive imagination. Maybe it was just those guys from earlier being a little creepy. They decided to head back to their tent before dusk, hoping the feeling would pass. They made a small campfire, roasted some marshmallows, and tried to get back into the fun, relaxed spirit of their trip. But the eerie feeling lingered. Every snap of a twig in the woods, every rustle of leaves made them jump. They kept glancing over their shoulders into the growing darkness beyond the firelight. They reassured each other it was nothing, just the woods being spooky at night, as woods often are. After a while, they decided to call it a night, zipping themselves securely inside their tent, hoping a good night's sleep would make them feel better in the morning. But sleep was the last thing they were going to get. Sometime in the dead of night, they were both jolted awake by a sound. It wasn't an animal they recognized. It was a deep, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate through the ground. It was close. Too close. Their hearts started pounding in their chests. They held their breath, listening. Then they heard it. Heavy, deliberate footsteps circling their tent. This wasn't a person. The steps were too heavy, the sound too powerful. Panic set in. Was it a bear? Something else? The footsteps stopped right outside their tent. Suddenly, the side of the tent pressed inward, as if a massive hand was pushing against it. They both screamed. The growling started again, louder this time, filled with a terrifying menace. It wasn't just an animal, it felt intelligent, like it was trying to intimidate them, to terrorize them. They could hear its heavy breathing just on the other side of the thin nylon wall. They were trapped. All the strange feelings from the day, the sense of being watched, it all crashed down on them. This wasn't some teenage prank. Out there in the darkness of the Oregon forest, something huge and angry was stalking them, and it was right outside their tent. It was obvious to the women now that what they were encountering was a Bigfoot. What terrified them the most is that they were clearly not welcomed here, and he was angry and acting aggressive.
The fabric of the tent began to strain, then shred. A massive, hairy arm ripped through the roof, and they saw it, the silhouette of a creature straight out of nightmares. It was a Bigfoot, and it was aggressive. Panic set in. They knew staying in the tent meant certain doom. Their only hope was to make a run for their car, a half-mile away through the dense, dark woods. Luckily, Michelle was prepared. She had packed a flare gun for emergencies, never imagining she'd use it like this. As the creature lunged, she fired. The flare exploded in a brilliant flash of red, striking the Bigfoot square in the face. A roar of pain and rage echoed through the forest. This was their chance. They scrambled out of the ruined tent and sprinted into the darkness. The woods were a maze of shadows and obstacles. Behind them, they could hear the enraged creature crashing through the underbrush, disoriented but relentless in its pursuit. Adrenaline pumped through their veins, but the rough terrain was treacherous. Maria stumbled, her ankle twisting as she hit the ground hard. The thundering footsteps grew louder, closer. Michelle, thinking fast, turned and fired another flare. It struck the beast directly in the chest, giving them precious seconds. She hauled Maria to her feet. "Come on, we have to go." They pushed onward, their lungs burning, every snap of a twig behind them sending fresh waves of terror. Just as they thought they might be gaining some distance, the unthinkable happened. The path forked. For a reason Michelle couldn't comprehend, Maria suddenly veered off onto a separate, darker trail. "No, Maria! This way!" Michelle screamed, her voice filled with desperation. But it was too late. She heard the creature's guttural growl divert, following Maria into the shadows. Michelle's heart sank, but she knew stopping now would mean they both wouldn't make it. She had to get help. She forced herself to keep running towards the parking lot, her mind racing with fear for her friend. Michelle finally burst out of the tree line and into the parking area. But the sight that greeted her offered no relief. It was a scene of utter destruction. Her car, along with several others, was flipped over as if they were mere toys. Deep, massive claw marks were gouged into the metal, a testament to the creature's immense power and fury. The hope of a quick escape was shattered. Scared, exhausted, and freezing in the cold night air, Michelle ran. She fled down the empty access road, her body and spirit on the verge of breaking. Then a pair of headlights cut through the darkness. A park ranger's truck slowed to a stop. He saw her distress, helped her into the warm cab, and wrapped a blanket around her trembling shoulders. As they drove, searching for a signal to call for backup, they rounded a bend in the road. And there, in the beam of the headlights, was a scene that will haunt Michelle forever. Maria lay unconscious in the middle of the road. Standing over her was the colossal Bigfoot. It turned, its eyes glaring at the truck, and let out a final, chilling growl, before disappearing back into the impenetrable forest. The ranger rushed to Maria's side. She was alive, but just barely, with a large, bloody gash on her head. They had just wanted to have a fun trip camping that weekend, but what they found was a terrifying legend that was all too real and had left Maria clinging to her life. Although Michelle and Maria both eventually healed from their wounds that night, the absolute horror of their experience still haunts them to this day. This terrifying encounter leaves us to question, what does this mean for the safety of anyone who dares to venture into those woods? Thanks for watching. If you have your own Bigfoot story, share it in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. Stay safe out there.
For more survivalist videos, be sure to leave a like and smash that subscribe button. As always, BF out!